I always felt like there was a fit girl trapped inside of a fat girl's body, but I couldn't figure out how to unleash her. And so I did a last ditch effort. I had weight loss surgery in August of 2021. And some people will say, oh, that was an easy way out. And I am here to tell you there's nothing easy about that. It reduces your stomach temporarily. It doesn't fix your mind. It doesn't fix your relationship with food. It doesn't produce lasting results unless you put in the work and the effort.
My old self is still in there. You take on a new identity in life. And
Right. I think the biggest identity change is that I now identify myself as a runner. Before then, I was not a runner. I wasn't fitness. I was just this person. When you're overweight, you tend to compensate. You try to be extra friendly, extra nice, funny, whatever, because you don't think people will like you for who you are. And so I think for the longest, it was just survival. It was just, this is who I am, and I just needed to survive. But now it is more fitness minded. It is more of a runner's mindset. It is more of this is who I am. Even though I've only been running for a few years, I still consider myself a runner, because back then the runner was trapped inside. She was there, same person, but it's a different identity.
Is everyone's phone on vibrate?
yes,
Silent?
yeah, we're good.
Okay, cool. All right.
It's not my first rodeo, Sean.
Always got to check. We got to check you, man, sometimes. All right, so what did everybody have for breakfast this morning?
I had a protein coffee, and then I had some deviled eggs and some fruits and vegetables.
Dang,
Okay.
I wasn't even close.
Okay. We took a little, we were trying to take bets because we always ask what people had for breakfast in the morning. And we were trying to figure out, I was like the closest.
I think Sean, like on a scale of 1 to 10, you got like a 6.
Yeah.
And I got a 2.
What did you think?
I don't know. You struck me as an oatmeal person.
I only do oatmeal on certain days. Like if I have a long run or a heavy training session, then I go for like the carbs. But
See,
usually
that's kind of what I was
go
thinking.
heavy protein.
Okay, gotcha. Well, Sean, what'd you have?
I had a steak and steak rice and a Dr. Pepper Zero.
Ooh, nice. Very similar to mine. I had meal prep for breakfast, which is not normal, but on days my wife got us a new furniture set yesterday, and of course we had to get it all put together the same day.
Yeah, of course.
So we got to bed pretty late last night and had to be over in Pearland at like, around 5 this morning. So I grabbed a meal prep out of the fridge.
Convenience.
Yeah, so it was just ground beef with rice, which is one of my favorite meals. Ground beef, rice, just really salty.
Yes.
With some ketchup on there.
Ketchup? No ketchup.
No ketchup?
No ketchup?
No.
Don't tell me you're a mustard person.
No, I like ketchup, but not on like the rice. And
Oh, it's so good. All right, well, maybe you could share what you're eating to get these amazing results that you have. I want to hear about it. I want to hear. I know that you're a trainer now, but we're just meeting for the first time today.
Right.
I'd like to know how you got here. I'm sure it's a very long story, and I could ask you a million questions, but I'll just let you tell it in your own words.
Okay.
Tell us who you are, how you got here, a little bit about the journey, and then I'm gonna dive into some tips, tricks, secrets that you have for us.
Perfect. Okay, so it all started, I was not a athletic person growing up. I did not go to the gym. I hated to run. I avoided anything that made me hot and sweaty. I wanted to read a book, and that was it. But I grew up overweight. I was always overweight. I always struggled with my weight. I always did every conceivable diet. If it was the cabbage soup diet, I tried it. If it was, Weight Watchers, I did it all. And I would see results, and then I wouldn't. And then I'd see the results, and I wouldn't. And it would just yo-yo all the time. And, of course, you lose weight, then you gain it back, plus 20, 30 pounds. So I kind of reached the point to where I was like, okay, I am desperate. I always felt like there was a fit person inside of me. I always felt like there was a fit girl trapped inside of a fat girl's body. But I couldn't figure out how to unleash her. And so I did a last-ditch effort. I had weight loss surgery in August of 2021. And some people will say, oh, that was an easy way out. And I am here to tell you there's nothing easy about that. It reduces your stomach temporarily. It doesn't fix your mind. It doesn't fix your relationship with food. It doesn't produce lasting results unless you put in the work and the effort. So that was 2021, and I lost, a lot of initial weight at first and started to feel healthier, started running. I always wanted to be a runner. So I would start off trying to run a mile, couldn't even run a mile, ran what I could, said okay. And then over the last, 3 or 4 years, it's developed into that fit girl is now out. And I'm not going to be a statistic. I refuse to be a statistic who gains the weight back and loses the momentum. I know what healthy feels like. So I got my personal training certificate. I have the nutrition coaching certificate. And I'm surrounding myself with people who can help me succeed and grow. It's a little bit weird because I do feel like an imposter. I'm not very familiar, not having grown up in this world. So it's a weird feeling, but it's a cool feeling because I have so much more energy and I feel like I am who I'm supposed to be now.
Sure. Yeah, I have so many questions, but let's get a couple surface level questions out of the way. Number one, you said you lost a lot of weight. How much is a lot? Number two, what is your expertise? Like, what is your field? Answer those for us, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so as of yesterday, I have lost 162.6 pounds.
To the decimal.
To the decimal, because the more you lose weight, the harder it is to even lose a half a pound.
It gets exponentially more difficult to continue to lose weight.
So 0.6 is very important to me.
Okay.
I am the smallest I have ever been in my entire adult life, probably a long time since, that. So seeing those numbers have been great, but also knowing what it's allowed my body to do has also been amazing. And then I am just a basic personal trainer at this point. I am looking more into like functional mobility. I'm in my 40s, and so I want to make sure that those in their 40s, 50s, 60s are able to live the best life they can. I don't want to be one of these old people who can't do anything. Sure. I've lived that I can't do life before, and so I don't want to do that, and I want to make sure others are able to do it as well.
Yeah, there's no reason you can't be healthy into your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s,
right,
and so on. Both my grandparents passed away in their early 60s, and it's just not necessary.
Right.
What did you do before professionally, though? Like, did you work before?
So I've always been able to be a stay-at-home mom.
Okay, awesome.
We actually homeschooled our kids.
Okay.
I teach piano on the side. So
Fun.
I've done, some daycare work. I worked at a bank, but nothing like professionally.
Okay.
I was a professional mom.
Okay. How old are your how old are the kids now?
So they are 17, 19, 21, and 22.
Okay, so it's a little easier for you now.
So it's easier now to, they can do their things. 2 of them don't even live at home anymore. Okay. And so now it's about me.
How do they feel about mom's journey and mom's future in fitness?
I think it's surprising to them. It's kind of surprising to me. I step into the gym and I'm like, am I really supposed to be here? And then I'm like, yes, I am. And so I think they're proud because they can see how far it's come and that it's still happening. It's not, just something that lasted for a year or 2. They can see me continually making gains.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of weird, I think, because that's not the usual mindset. Just to be on this podcast, they're like, a fitness podcast?
Yeah.
And
your
like,
mom lost 160.6 pounds.
Right.
Tell them.
Yes.
Tell them what's up. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and where do you see this? I know you said you want to work with people in like their 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, but like how do you see that progressing over time? How do you see your career trajectory? Is this something that you want to do full time? Is it something you're kind of just doing on the side, but continue to have lots of free time? Like, what are your thoughts?
I don't know that I would want to do something full time. I'm at the point where I want to enjoy my life.
Sure, exactly.
I want to go and do my own thing, but I definitely want to see it build a little bit.
Okay.
I want to get more clients. I want to offer more classes. I want to be part of it, and because it will help me to be more established in this world. The more experience that I have, the more knowledge I will have for myself, but for others as well.
Yeah, so. And it will help you overcome that imposter thing.
Yes.
And I can 100% relate. I've been doing personal training for, I guess, about 7 years full time.
Yeah.
and I did it part-time for 3 years, and with growth comes new. And so, you're constantly battling that thing for something new, and it's almost like you accept it and you just continue to overcome. You get a little bit stronger each time. It's the same journey as weight loss.
Right. And it feels very imposter-like, even just with the weight loss. I feel like when I walk into the gym that I'm that over 300-pound person. And then I'm trying to teach somebody how to do something, and I'm like, are they even taking me serious? And I have to stop and realize, okay, wait, that's not who I am anymore. I'm a different person. I look different. So they don't know that. They don't know.
Tell us about the identity change that has happened. I often tell people, like, when they're starting this journey that, and even myself, I went through a weight loss journey. So it's like my old self is still in there, but I'm a different person now, and you take on a new identity in life. And I often tell people, like, that's what you have to do if you want to be successful. So can you share a little bit about that in yourself? Like, what is the identity that you now have, and how does it differ from your previous self?
Right. I think the biggest identity change is that I now identify myself as a runner. Before then, I was not a runner. I wasn't fitness. I was just this person. When you're overweight, you tend to compensate. You try to be extra friendly, extra nice, funny, whatever, because you don't think people will like you for who you are. And so I think for the longest, it was just survival. It was just, this is who I am, and I just needed to survive. But now it is more fitness-minded. It is more of a runner's mindset. It is more of this is who I am. Even though I've only been running for a few years, I still consider myself a runner, because back then the runner was trapped inside. She was there, same person, but it's a different identity.
How do you deal with that internally? Before you came in, Sean and I were actually talking about this. A lot of times in running, when people are quote unquote slow, or like, on the slower side of maybe the corral, right? Like in a race or something like that, how do you have that conversation with yourself? Like, even if you're running what others would consider a slow time, but how do you process that in your mind? Like, that's not important, or how does it work for you to continue to call yourself a runner? Even though there's obviously professional runners, and even, advanced recreational runners that are so fast, and you see them, how do you deal with that?
I think in the running community, there's a lot of people that accept that if you get up and you run, whether it's 3 feet or 3 miles, you're a runner. And so I think hearing that enough has kind of solidified that it's an individual sport. I'm only racing against myself. I'm not racing against anybody else. It's me.
It's so true.
And I am a very back of the pack runner. I mean, I will finish almost towards the end of any race. But that's okay, because one, I accept I'm a new runner. I haven't been running for 20 years. I've been running for a few years. My body was misused for so long that I have to retrain my body and give it grace, because I abused it. So it doesn't have the functionality that somebody who took care of their body for 2 decades does. It has a lot more wear and tear on it. And then just realizing I'm out there doing it. I'm doing something that a lot of people don't do. And that brings me excitement, because for so long I couldn't do anything. And so now I can run. May not be fast, but I'm out there running.
Yeah, it's about progress, not perfection.
Right.
And I live my life by this motto. I know we're here talking about like your journey and weight loss and stuff, not necessarily like the business and side of things, but in entrepreneurship, a lot of times people ask me like, how do you stay motivated, or XYZ? And it's so funny how it relates so much to fitness and to weight loss. And what I always say, and actually I stole this from, I saw someone else say it, but it's resonated with me over the years, which is in entrepreneurship or in running, they're individual sports.
Right.
Your only competition is your own potential.
Right.
And your only goal is your own potential. Your competition, I guess, is your past self. Right. But your goal is your potential. Like, I have the ability to strive for and reach my potential every time. So as a runner, if you're getting closer and closer to your potential, you're winning.
Yeah.
Right?
That's heavy.
Yeah. You said something, though, that I want to ask you about. You said in the running community. How come not in all communities people don't feel that way? What's up with that?
I think that's a good question. And I really don't know, but that's my kind of mindset with the personal training. I want it to be a competition with themselves, not with other people. I started teaching some group classes at the gym I'm at, and it's for new beginners. It's for those who are intimidated by like the heavy lifters and, the professional gym goers, because I want them to have that safe space to come and to not worry about anybody else but themselves. Everybody starts somewhere. So why don't we have that in every area?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting question because, like you said, in the running community, if you run, you're a runner.
You're a runner.
But in daily life, if you run, you're not a runner unless you're a professional runner.
Yep.
Like, that's not fair.
Yeah.
Because when you're actually in it, you're one of them.
Yeah.
But if you're viewing from the outside, it's not the same.
Right.
So our goal, I guess, as trainers is to change that.
To change it, yep.
Yeah. Let's go back to when you decided on the surgery.
Okay.
I want you to kind of, if I were considering surgery and I'm thinking, oh, that's cheating.
Right.
Or that's not the right way, tell me what I should consider. Tell me what I should think about. Tell me what you thought about. Just kind of lay it out there for us. Like, why is surgery acceptable? What, if you don't mind sharing exactly which route? I know there's a couple. There's like the sleeve. There's a bypass. If you don't mind sharing why you chose which one you chose, and things like that.
Okay. So I think it's important, if you're going to consider surgery, that you need to make sure that that is the direction you want to go, because it is a very big, extensive thing. For me, it was a last resort. I felt like I had tried everything. I'd spent my 20s and my 30s trying everything to lose weight, trying to not abuse food, trying to build that good relationship. And I was desperate. I wanted to lose weight so bad that I would email different doctors in the different areas and just ask if they would perform the surgery, like, for free, because sometimes doctors would do, free surgeries, is what I've heard. I don't think they do, but, I was desperate to get this. So things just lined up to where, because I went to Mexico to have surgery.
Okay.
And I only did that because I knew some people who had, in real life, went and did it, had a successful results. It was safe. It wasn't one of these back street operations. And so we started researching it, and I was like, okay, this is going to be it. And so we started, saving money. My husband, he was very supportive. And so that's kind of how I got to that point, was everything just fell into place for this surgery. But I knew that it was going to be so expensive because it was out of pocket that it had to work. There was no, Weight Watchers cost so much, cabbage soup diet costs so much. But this cost a lot.
And a big lump sum also.
Big lump sum. It was the surgery cost. It was the travel cost. It was, my husband missed work. It was a big, big deal. So I knew it had to work. And so that's one thing that's always in the back of my head, is that this has to work. This is why I can't be a statistic. So if you're going to have surgery, one, I don't think it's a bad choice, but I think it's a choice that you have to seriously make. For some people, surgery isn't an option. It's not something that they want to do, and it's not something that they're going to stick with. I know people who have lost a ton of weight just by changing their diets. I tried that. I don't know why in the fitness world it's supposed to be an easy calories in, calories out. I tried that. I don't know where it went wrong, but it was not lasting. For me, what happened is when I had this surgery and I realized that this was it got me to my weight, and then from there I could continue. So it was a help to get me where I could keep pushing. But it's a big deal. I had the vertical sleeve surgery. I chose to do that because some of the other surgeries eliminate the way your body absorbs the nutrients. So I wanted to make sure my body was still getting as many nutrients as possible, even though some of my stomach was being removed. So I looked at the whole picture as to what was going to give me the greatest source of success while keeping me as healthy as possible. I don't have to be on special medicine other than, your vitamins and things like that you have to have if you have any type of weight loss surgery.
How long did it take for you to go from I'm getting surgery to scheduling like that consultation, right? I'm assuming you need like an initial consultation. And then from there, how long until you decided which surgery, and then how long until you actually did it? Break that timeline down for us.
So I think it was the beginning of 2021 when I started looking into it. And then by August of 2021, I had the surgery.
So
it was
8
pretty
months.
fast, right? And they do surgeries different there. You don't, in the United States, you have to have like the psychology and you have to have the nutritionist and you meet with all the doctors. There, it's a little bit different. It's Mexico.
You just like sign me up.
I mean, they, right? I mean,
They call your number.
they have a nutritionist. There was some guidance and like, a pre-op plan, and then you had to have blood work and stuff when you got there. So it wasn't completely sketchy, but you didn't have the extensive like, and I wish it was like that here. I wish it was easier for people who want to have weight loss surgery. I wish they didn't have so many hoops that they had to go through. I think it would be good to have some help, a little bit of diving deeper. But it could be very hard to have it here,
Do you think that, what's the word I'm looking for, deters people?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it allows some people to feel really discouraged because they probably felt like I did, this is it. This is the last ditch effort,
Do you recommend that it be a last resort? Like, what are your thoughts if someone's like, you were in your late 30s when you did this, right?
Right.
Let's say someone, was still maybe in their late 20s or early 30s. They haven't really tried that hard, but they're ready to lose weight.
Right.
Do you think weight loss surgery is good for them, or should they try it without it?
I think it's individual. I think it's up to them, but I would definitely recommend that they try some other methods first.
Okay.
I think nutrition is always going to be the first key. If somebody came to me and said, okay, I want to lose weight and I'm thinking weight loss surgery, I'm going to be like, okay, well, have you tried, tracking your calories, doing your macros? What are you eating? How are you eating? How are you sleeping? What type of stress do you have? What does your previous efforts look like? And then go from there. I don't think I would ever tell somebody to just automatically go have surgery.
Yeah.
Like, this was a big deal. And I know it's kind of controversial because some people are like, oh, that's not real weight loss.
It's real weight loss.
But I'm like, I've had to keep it off.
Yeah.
It'll be 4 years in August.
Amazing.
I'm still
That's
losing
huge.
weight.
Yeah.
At this point, it's not the surgery. It's not the surgery. The muscles that I'm building, it's not the surgery. It's
you.
It's me.
In your new identity.
In my new identity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Do you think that someone's current health risks should be weighed? Because it's just me, in my mind, if someone's considering this surgery,
Right.
every decision you make, I often tell clients, like even when you're in the gym, every exercise you choose to do or not to do is a risk reward. There's an opportunity cost.
Right.
There's an opportunity cost to everything you do. So in my mind, if someone's contemplating a weight loss surgery, what is the opportunity cost? What is the risk reward?
Right.
Like, are you actually having health concerns now due to the fact that you are unable to lose weight? Because if you are, well, then maybe we pursue surgery. But if you're not, then you're just putting yourself at more risk by doing the surgery. Because there are potential risks, right?
Right. With any surgery.
Yeah. Can you talk about your mindset around that? I mean, you made the decision pretty quickly.
Right.
But were you concerned about that at all?
I made it quickly at that moment, but this had been something that had been weighing on my mind for years. Like I wanted to have surgery. Like
Oh yeah, you mentioned
right.
emailing the doctors and stuff.
Right.
That's right.
So, you know, as stupid as that was, I was desperate even, you know, years before. And so when everything kind of lined out and my friend had good results, you know, she said, this is reputable, like it's not sketchy. You know, I started researching it. Okay, financially, I think we might be able to swing it now versus, you know, 5-10 years ago, you know, when the kids were littler.
Sure.
And so it was quick process at that point, but it had been something that I'd wanted. I wanted to lose weight. I like, you know, it's that fit girl. I knew she was in there. Like it sounds so crazy. But, like, I wanted to be a runner. And people would go, why do you want to be a runner? And I'm like, I don't know. They just seem cool. You know? Like, there was just something about them. And runners come in all shapes and sizes.
That's right.
But there was that fitness mindset. You know, like, they had to be doing something with themselves to be a runner. I wanted to buy the running clothes. You know? Like, I don't know why that stuck in my mind. But I kept going back to that. So every time I would lose some weight, I would get excited because, okay, she's going to come out. She's going to finally be here, that fit girl. And then life would happen and, you know.
Yeah.
Cabbage soup only lasts for so long.
Yeah. Quick question, if you don't mind. Did you have any health, was your health deteriorating?
No, I had, other than being morbidly obese, my health was fine. But it wouldn't be.
That's right.
It wouldn't.
And your psychology was.
And my everything. Yeah. It was. Yeah. There were times that I really thought I was going to die and leave my kids without a mom. I just felt, you know, you feel bad all the time. You know, this hurts, that hurts. You know, you get out of breath walking upstairs or, you know, down the hallway. And so there wasn't any, like, I didn't have diabetes. My cholesterol was fine. I don't know why I was so healthy blood work-wise, but yet so overweight. But I knew if something didn't change, it would never change.
Right. Let's talk about after surgery. Right, we've been talking about before. So you have the surgery, right? You come home. I'm sure there's a recovery period, but did you have a plan for after surgery, or you know, as far as working out, nutrition, stuff like that, or was it more of let me just do this thing and I'll figure it out?
No, I'm very much a planner.
Okay.
I am very much a planner. So
it's the mom inside of you.
It's the mom inside of me. You know, I have to plan everything out. Drives my family crazy sometimes, but I had a plan. It wasn't a solidified plan. Like I wasn't gonna, you know, lift weights on this day, and I wasn't gonna run on this day or walk. But I knew that in order for it to be successful, like I had enough knowledge throughout the years. I knew I had to eat right, and I knew I had to exercise. So all this was doing was helping me get to that point where I could eat right and exercise. So I followed the post-op diet to a T. I am a rule follower. So if they said to eat this, I ate that. And I didn't eat it until, you know, whatever week post-op I was supposed to eat it, you know, I did all the things. And then I started walking. And then as I lost weight and gained energy and healed, I started to run a little bit. And then, you know, we would do some weights and kind of build from there.
Can you tell us about that post-op diet? Like, break it down for us.
So it starts off like with a liquid diet. So it's like pretty boring, you know, bone broth, chicken broth. And then I think Jell-O is on there. Then it goes to like...
For how long?
I think it was like a week.
Okay, 1 week.
1 week, I believe. This was a while ago. I've been eating real food since then, so
yeah.
I try not to think too much about
try
those
to forget
early
about
days.
that time in my life.
Yeah, I kind of like my proffee and my eggs and you know all that, and then it kind of progresses to like a thicker pureed, so maybe like a thick soup. You know, you could puree some of your soups and have it, and then it was like soft meats, so like tuna and stuff like that. And then eventually you got to have like real food. So it was a course over probably 6 weeks of kind of introducing it. So, you know, very, you know, liquids to like softer foods.
And is there calories, protein in mind at this point? Or is it just like the substance?
So early on, it's pretty much the substance because,
Okay.
you're recovering from surgery and you're not going to get much protein from like chicken broth and Jell-O. But as you ended towards the end of your post-op diet, there was a heavy emphasis on calories and protein, carbs, because they want to make sure that you have a well-rounded diet. Protein is a big thing. I tell people protein is big in the bariatric world. Protein is big in the fitness world. So I'm like, I've got the fitness. I've got
Okay.
I've got the protein. So other than that, yeah.
What was tell us about the calorie and protein goals, that you had maybe after that 6-week period and kind of how that progressed to normalcy.
Right. So early on, some of your calories might be, 600 to 1,000 as you're building back your body, right? But now I'm back to a normal, 1,800 calorie diet. I just have to be careful of my foods. I can eat filler foods all day, the chips and the pretzels and the cookies and all that, but then I'm not getting any nutritional sources. And I have to have the nutritional sources even if I wasn't doing anything with fitness, because my body has to have that protein.
Yeah. How much protein do you shoot for? 1,600 calories. How much protein?
I like to aim high. I'm really trying like 160 grams of protein.
Wow. That's a lot.
But I want to build muscle. So
Yeah.
I hear protein and muscle kind of goes together.
Yeah, I read that somewhere.
Yeah,
Right?
just a little bit.
Yeah, I read that somewhere.
So I do cheat. I do protein shakes,
That's not cheating.
Um,
That's if that's cheating, so is weight loss surgery.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, that's what I've been told.
Yeah.
But, I do protein shakes, but I try to make sure I get it from real sources.
Good.
Eggs and chicken and eggs.
Yeah. I don't think I ever asked you. What was your starting weight?
340 pounds.
340.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
I
man.
look in the mirror all the time and it still catches me off guard.
Yeah.
I get startled. I'm like, who's that person?
Yeah, you like double take, like,
Yeah.
whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I kind of go back. I go like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah. It is crazy. And it's the imposter syndrome, Not only do I feel like that, like I'm still that person, even though I'm physically not.
Yeah.
Then I'm adding in, personal training, trying to help others prevent their path from going down that, trying to talk to them about their nutrition. And, without them knowing my backstory, I kind of wonder, are they thinking I'm a fraud? But then they don't know. So it's a crazy feeling, though. I didn't go to the gym all the time. So I walk into the gym and there's equipment. I have no idea what we're supposed to do with it. But I have to remind myself, everybody starts somewhere.
That's right.
And so I'm just a late in life personal trainer, and compared to the people who've been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah, I understand. Now it makes complete sense. And I think that, to take on this challenge at this point in your life is so amazing. So a crazy step.
It is crazy.
And I'm sure you've heard this, and I couldn't imagine what it must feel like for you to do it. We talked about after surgery, but I do want to take another step back to before, because I'm thinking that maybe a lot of people listening to this are thinking about it. I'm really curious of where you've talked about your headspace and where it was before for years. You were 340 pounds. And I think you also said, you might have said this before we actually started recording, you were overweight even as a child. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So how did we get to 340? Like, was it just slowly?
Ice cream. Lots of ice cream.
Was it like a little bit of ice cream every day, or just like a lot on Saturdays?
I
Like,
plead the fifth.
so both, like a lot,
yeah.
but still every day.
A lot every day, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you don't wake up 340 pounds.
And that's why I'm asking. I'm
right.
curious
It-
of,
Well,
throughout.
what's your vice? What was your food vice at
Ice
that
cream.
time?
Yeah.
Ice cream.
Yeah.
Well, I have a big sweet tooth.
Okay.
And I have to guard myself now, because if I'm not careful, I will develop the same habits.
Sure.
So I kind of have to put those boundaries into place and go, I can't trust myself. So I'm not even going to take a bite of it, because I know myself. But, sweets was a big thing. And I think a lot of times mental health goes in with weight. I'm not saying everybody that's overweight has mental health problems. I'm not saying that.
I understand.
But I think if you're overweight, it's easier for you to be in a place of depression because you're not fitting molds that you want to fit. You're not able to do things that you want to do. And I think sometimes we self-medicate with food. And I think that's what I did a lot. I would have a stressful day, so I would medicate with food. And then that made me feel depressed because, well, crap, I done screwed up everything. So then I have a bigger bowl of ice cream, and then I tell myself, no, tomorrow's going to be a better day. I'm going to eat the way I'm supposed to eat. I know how I'm supposed to eat. I'm going to eat this way. And then I wake up and life happens, or I feel bad, whatever, and then instead of reaching for the eggs, I go for the donuts, and it's a cycle. I've been a binge eater before. I hide food, or I hid food. I don't hide food anymore. In the past, the old identity, and so it's things like that. And then next thing you know, the scale is at 340 pounds, and that was sobering, because at one point I was like, I'm never going to get over 300 pounds. I mean, it's crazy that I was okay as long as I didn't go over 300 pounds.
Do you remember how old you were at that time?
I was in my probably mid-30s.
Mid-30s.
At that point, at my heaviest, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so it went. So in your mid-30s, over 300, and we continued to gain.
I don't really remember how I went from 300 to 340. I know it wasn't overnight, but I don't remember that space of time. Mm-hmm. I kind of remember all in my 200s, starting here and getting here. And, I had 4 kids. So, each pregnancy kind of added a little bit more weight.
Ooh, yeah.
And then I never lost the baby weight, even though my kids weren't babies.
Right.
And so, I could see the 200 to 300 pound mark, but I really don't know how I jumped from 300 to 340. I mean, I know I did.
Right.
I know I was eating it, but it's like I blacked out that part.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people in that situation probably feel the same way. Mm-hmm. Whether it's because you don't want to remember, maybe that's a part of it. Maybe whatever position you're at in life at that time has you so, your focus is so spread that it's not actually on the life that you have.
Yeah. I mean, overweight people know that that's not healthy.
Right.
I mean, I knew that I wasn't healthy. I knew I wasn't eating healthy. I knew every time I reached for the donut that I wasn't making a good choice. I was not just going to eat one. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going to just have the donut and then eat really good for the rest of the day. So then there's that guilt that we can't do it, and how come other people can, Yeah. What makes them different?
I was just talking to someone the other day. I don't remember who it was, but telling someone that's overweight to eat less and work out more is not doing them any favors.
No.
That doesn't help anyone.
No.
Because they already know.
We already know, yeah.
Right. So what do you tell, you in your situation, the experience that you have, someone is in that right now? What's the conversation?
So my first step is to give them encouragement, because if you don't have somebody in your corner cheering you on, it's going to make it 9 times harder to actually succeed. So my first encouragement to them would be, it's okay. We can work on this together. You're not in this alone. And then I think you do lead them through the whole, yes, you've got to eat healthy, you've got to exercise, but then what is the root of it? What is causing you to eat? What is causing you not to exercise? What is, is it sleeping? Because sometimes lack of sleep doesn't help our diet. Is it stress? What areas in your life could be tweaked? Is it, you just have a really stressful day, you come home and the kids finally go to bed and you always go to the pantry and then that's where you're just eating. So what can we do instead of going to the pantry? Coming up with an action plan to, not just eat less, exercise more, but what's causing it? And how can we fix this? How can you do something different?
So the first actionable step would be to identify the problem.
Right.
And then what do you write it down? What? And then once you have it, what do you do with it?
Well, we break it down. If we can identify the problem, then what steps can we take to fix it? you know, and sometimes it's brainstorming. Sometimes they have no clue, you know, they're like, I really don't know. So then I can throw out some ideas. Well, what about this? What about that? Go home and think about it for a few days. See what you can come up with. I think having a plan is important. You know, every day I get up, I've already tracked my food for the next day so that I have that plan of what I'm going to eat. I already have my workouts planned for the next day or for the week because I'm a planner. So I know what I'm doing all week. Because if I don't, then I'm just kind of like going through life just hoping that everything kind of falls into place. But I have to be intentional with it. So if you're struggling with an area, you have to be intentional to try to fix it. Like for me, I know sweets are my nemesis. All it takes is one bite, and I'm going to eat the whole thing, okay? So I just don't eat one bite. And that's a boundary I had to put in place. But I had to identify it first. Because at first I was like, well, I can eat it. I have food freedom. I can eat this if I want, and I can. I have that freedom too. But I choose not to because then I'll eat the whole thing. And then I will be a statistic. Yeah. And I refuse to be a statistic.
How long? Well, two questions, actually. Number one, you can answer these together or separate. My first question is, you're this very organized person, right? And you said you've always been that way.
Right.
In the past, what was stopping you from being that way with fitness? That's one question I have. And then my next question is, how long did it take you after the surgery to get to that point with tracking your food ahead of time and making your workout plan? Right. You know, so before, how come you couldn't take this amazing skill that you had and implement it over here?
Yeah. I think it came down to I didn't want to because I didn't think I should have to. That's what it came down. I shouldn't have to track my food. I don't really like doing this, and I shouldn't have to. That, I think, is a lesson that I've learned.
Huge. That is so powerful. That's huge, yeah. That is so true, though.
Yeah, it is true.
Having to admit that you have to put a boundary on yourself feels like you have such a bigger problem. And it's like, I don't want to admit that I'm, like you said, part of that statistic. Like, I have that problem. Like,
I mean, I was already overweight. I was already a problem. I didn't want to have to do anything else. Even though, you know, all the people would say, well, just track your food, see what you're eating. And I mean, I would do that for a period of time, and then it would fall off, and I would be like, yeah, I know what I'm eating. I know how much, you know, this is supposed to be. And then, you know, it kind of grows and grows. And, you know, you eat something and you don't want to track it because then it will show up on your tracker.
Yes.
So that 400 calories I ate, if it's not there, I didn't really eat it. And so now I've realized that I do have to put these boundaries into place because it gives me the reward of being healthy and fit and able to do what I want. So I don't always like doing it, and there are some days that I don't. You know, there are a few days where I kind of get off track.
Sure.
And I've noticed that my off tracks last a lot less of a time than they did before. You know, before my you know, one day would turn into a week and a month and a year of being off track. Now it might be a few days, maybe a week. And then I'm like, whoa, hold up. You know, wait a minute. Yeah, and I have to dial it back in, and I'm able to do that. But again, I mean, when you go from being 340 pounds and feeling miserable to where I feel like now, I feel amazing.
It's like, good motivation.
Why would I want to go back?
Yeah. So results are motivating.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. I want to wrap back to your statement because it is just so powerful. Because I'm not going to lie, I was about to call you. On saying that you didn't want to, because earlier you told me you didn't want to. And I'm getting conflicting stories here. All right?
And it's being recorded for proof.
Yes. But the next statement that you made, because you didn't feel like you had to.
Yeah.
Jesus, I feel the same way.
Right?
I shouldn't have to.
You shouldn't have to.
Not everyone. Some people are born this way. But the reality is you're born your way.
Yes.
And you have to do what you have to do.
Yes.
To get the results that you want and need and are necessary to have a good, healthy, long, prosperous life.
Right.
Dang.
I'm
going to remember this forever. I just want you to know.
Yeah, no, that's...
And I'm going to take this into the conversations that I have with people.
Okay.
That was such a good statement.
Yeah, just admitting that you just didn't want to, just because for the fact that you just didn't want to choose is like very true. Because sometimes you'll tell people, I mean, I'm in my early 30s, so I think that we're starting to get to the age where friends are having the conversations about health more. Yeah. And it's just like, oh, well, try, tracking your food, try running. Nah, I don't really feel like I need to do that. And it's like, all right, man,
Actually, you do need to.
You do.
Oh, man, I don't know how to do it. It's not, it's difficult. It's say you don't want to.
Right.
Just say you don't want to. Once you get past that little hump, then I think you can start actually like figuring out, whether, what is stopping.
And there are ways to do all of this that we teach in different ways for different people. I mean, some people are big food preppers, and so they're happy prepping a whole week of food. I don't like to prep a whole week of food, so I'll prep the next day. But I'm also home, so it's convenient for me just to go in there and fix my lunch. So if I had to fix my whole week's of food, I would probably have less success because
it wouldn't work for you.
It wouldn't work for me, but it works for other people. And it's the same thing with tracking your food, like, using an app to track it. Some people want an app, some people want paper, and some people, they may not have to. They, they may just have all the magic numbers in their head or, whatever. And so it's about finding what works, but also realizing that sometimes you have to do the hard things.
Sometimes you have to do what you don't want to do.
Yes.
Yeah, love that. You remember the second half of my question was, how long did it take you to get to that point? Like, post-surgery, you're moving in the right direction. How long did it take you to get motivated or get organized and get structured to this kind of structure that you have today?
So I think about the first year post-surgery, I was riding the high of just losing weight at a pretty steady, happy rate. I would exercise and stuff, so I was pretty happy with what was going on. As the weight loss kind of started to slow down, I started to not be so happy with my body. You lose a lot of weight, and you have a lot of skin and a lot of flapping and everything else going on. And I realized that the only way that was going to change is if I started doing some things differently. That's where my running really started taking off. I ran my first half marathon October of 22. So
what was your weight?
I was probably about 240 then, because I'd lost about 100 pounds, I think, by then. And so I ran my first half. And so that allowed the training to kind of start taking place. I loosely trained for it, kind of just making sure I was running more during the week. And then that has continued on. And so now it's even more focused to where I'm eating to fuel my body. I'm eating for results. I'm, tracking. And so I think it's been a process for that whole time, little bit by little bit, kind of like each time I accomplish something. So, hey, I ran my first half marathon. Great. Okay, what's the next thing that I can do? And so now it's, okay, what can I see? Okay, well, I just did a half in March, and I'm going to run a full in March of next year. So my goal right now is to tone up, lose a little bit more weight, lose the body fats, and so I've taken each step and kind of built upon it. And so I think it's still happening.
Sure. Yeah. So you're still in the middle of dialing things in slowly. Yes. So in the beginning, like we were talking about earlier, it gets exponentially harder to continue to get results. Yes. The longer that you do it, the more results you get. So in the beginning, you were just kind of
just riding
it, and then and then you're almost forced into a little bit more structure. And because you have this skill set, it kind of maybe came a little easier to you.
Yes,
but you knew you had to, and it's one of those like, don't fix what's not broken things. Like, you were getting results, why would I change anything? Right.
Right.
Can you tell us what exercise does look like shortly after a surgery like this? You said you exercised, but you didn't do, I guess, the same stuff you do now. So tell us how your ability to exercise has come along. What type of exercises were you doing when you first started? How did that progress? What kind of results have you seen?
Sure.
Stuff like that.
I think early on, your workouts are all just typical post-surgery workouts, just like if you had any other surgery. So walking, light weights, Nothing too strenuous, nothing that's going to, tear any muscles or,
Were you going to the gym for this, or were you at home for this?
I was at home for this. I didn't join the gym until a couple years later. And so, just kind of walking around the house, walking down the streets, kind of that. And then as your body starts to heal, running heavier weights. I think the difference between back then to now is I definitely feel more athletic now. Before then, I would probably sum it up like just a mom, a mom who was trying to, do exercise. And I don't mean that in a moms don't do exercise. I know some really fit, healthy moms, but I understand. I just mean the moms that are running around with their kids. And so they're walking the park, or they're just doing some workouts at home versus the ones who are training to build muscle, or they're training for something specific. Maybe training is a better,
Yeah, I understand. Versus just like loosely exercising.
Right. I went from just working out to now I am training. I'm training to build my muscles. I'm training to run better. So that's the mindset difference now. Back then it was, low key, what kept my body moving and, made everybody happy. I was happy because I was moving. My doctors were happy because I was moving. To now it's, lift heavy and.
And was it the same thing? Like, all right, these are the most results I could get by doing that, so let me implement the next thing.
I think I wanted more.
Okay.
Because it kind of goes back to that fit girl. She started coming out a little bit more, and then it was like, oh, she can run a little bit. Okay.
A lot of it's confidence, right?
Yes. Yeah. When you're 340 pounds, it's hard to be confident. And so as I started to lose the weight, she kind of started coming out more and started doing more. And then I was like, what else can I do? And so, then I ran the half marathon, and that was pretty awesome. And then it's like, okay, I wasn't ready to do a full, but after my last half, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a full. It may be the only full I ever do, because that's a lot of miles.
That is a lot.
But I said, I will do it just to be able to say I did it.
Yep.
And so, I think it's just constantly challenging myself, what can I do next? And that's where the personal training and the nutrition coach has came in, is it's that next level.
It's your own curiosity of what can my body do.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the transition from just getting more fit and, getting more organized with my workouts. All right, I'm going to actually do this and try to do like a living out of it, right? And be a professional, which you are now. Tell us when you made that decision. Was there a specific moment? Is it something you contemplated throughout the whole journey?
So the crazy thing is I actually tried to become a personal trainer like 10 years ago.
Okay.
So again, going back, there was this fit girl. She kept trying to come out. Facebook memories are great because you can go back and you can see your journey. And I kid you not, 10 years ago, there was a post that I had made about, I'm going to become a personal trainer. And I bought the books and, all that. Didn't happen. And so I was like, that's kind of weird, because what if this doesn't work? What if I try this again and didn't do it? But I actually completed the courses and earned my certification. And so, it's just getting to that point of realizing that you have something to share, and your story doesn't look like everybody else's. For me, I can resonate with those who come into the gym and they're unhappy. The ones that come into the gym and they're intimidated. The ones that think they can only do the treadmill because that's all they know. I can resonate with those people. But if you're a bodybuilder, maybe you don't resonate as well with those people, because that's not your niche of people, and that's cool. And so realizing that I do have something to offer people, even if I'm not an expert at it.
So once you got certified and got all that figured out, how did you approach finding a gym, and how did you what did that journey look like? Or was this a gym you were already going to?
No. So so my family and I were from the South, but we just recently moved to this area in August, and we joined a big box gym and hated it. It was not what we were looking for, and so we were kind of building a little home gym to kind of make it to where we could still work out. And I earned my certification in December, January. And I was like, okay, now that I have this, now what? And the imposter syndrome was heavy because I was like, I can't go to a gym and be like, hey, I want to train people here, because it felt weird. But I'm actually training at Iron Kill Strength, and they were having their grand opening, and I messaged them and was like, hey, do you have any like job positions? Because I didn't know anything about the gym. So I didn't know if there was like a desk clerk or something that I could just get
Oh,
into.
you were thinking about even just being like a front desk?
I just wanted to be in that environment and kind of start learning firsthand and seeing things. And Eve was like, well, we don't have a front desk, but come by and we'll talk. And so I went by and I told her, I says, I'm new. I says, like, I'm just looking for, somebody to shadow, somebody to mentor me, somebody who I can go, hey, does this workout look right? Or come to you with questions, because textbooks are great. But then when you're putting it in action, that's a whole nother field. And she agreed. And so now she's helped me get some group classes going and trying to help me find different clients. And it's been great to have that relationship, but then to also be able to shadow some of the other trainers and see how they do it, because everybody trains differently and everybody has different ways of executing things. And so it's helped me get a little bit beyond that imposter syndrome, because now I feel a little bit more confidence about what I'm doing there. But then I have that hands-on and those people that can help support and mentor you, because I can't do this alone. I couldn't do my weight loss alone. I had to have a support system. I don't think you can be successful in anything without a support system. And while my family is great, they're not in that fitness world. And so really, just that random message of, hey, I know this sounds weird, but
got to go for it.
It worked. And I'm just like, so glad that she was like, yeah, sure, come on.
Awesome.
Because, there are people in every department that do not want to help others.
Yes, there's a lot of that in our industry, unfortunately.
And I don't know that I would have blamed them if they had said that, but it's nice when you find somebody who's like, I don't have secrets. Let me help you. Let me show you. Let me just kind of be there to like bounce ideals off of, and all that. So now I'm gaining experience and feeling a little less imposter-like.
There you go. Well, if there's anything we can do to help you out, make sure you let me know as well.
I will.
I've been
Thank you.
doing this for quite some time. So I was also curious how this, if you don't mind me asking, how has it affected your home life? Obviously, things are much different now in your lifestyle compared to 5-10 years ago.
Yes.
Do you mind sharing, with your kids, your husband,
Right.
kind of how has that affected? You said he was supportive, but that's all you really said.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more on how that's kind of been affected over the past few years.
So I think they would always see it ebb and flow. I would always go on these, really healthy nutrition kicks, and then it would die off. And so they were no surprise to, different nutrition or even fitness things. I think the fact that it has been consistent is probably the biggest kind of...
They're surprised by it.
Okay, wait a minute. Like I says, 2 of my daughters, they don't live at home anymore. My daughter that does live at home, she's very much into fitness. And so she often motivates me. She's, 19 and just, really like pushing herself. She's had a weight loss too of her own, all doing it very naturally, very healthy wise. I was very, knowing my relationship with food, I watched very carefully because I didn't want her to lose weight the wrong way.
Go extreme in the other direction.
And nobody told her she needed to. That was her choice, and she did it in a very healthy way, and she continues to do it in a very healthy way. So we have a lot of conversations about, hey, what's your protein? How many steps you have? Like her and I, we're always going, hey, how many steps you got? And sometimes we're like, oh, not very many. And then, we push each other. She's doing 75 hard with me as well. Wow. So we kind of get to bounce each other off of that. My husband, he is just the best. He has always supported me no matter what. He comes to all of my big races, and I am a back of the pack runner. So he will wait while 99% of the people finish. But he will wait there for me to finish. Never complains, never does anything. He's very supportive. And so when it comes to health and fitness, he has me doing his workouts, so I get to play in his workouts. And so when he comes in and he's all huffing and sweaty, and I'm like, yes, I did it. I'm like, how do you feel? And I'm like, yeah. And if he's not sweating enough, then I know the next round I need to bump it up a little bit more.
Get back out there.
Right.
He's the guinea pig.
Yeah, he's the guinea pig. But it's great
that.
because...
Hey, babe, have you ever heard of burpees?
Yeah. Well, I have him doing man makers now. So
Okay, gotcha.
so he was like, that got him. I'm like, because,
Did he work out before? Or?
So he played football. He was very athletic growing up, and so he kind of helps me bounce things off. Like if I'm like, hey, is this normal? He's like, yeah, I remember doing it, with football, because he played all through high school.
Okay.
But then he would ebb and flow. He would work out, and then he wouldn't, and then he'd work out. And he likes to work out. It's just kind of that consistency.
How does he feel about the lack of ice cream?
Well, he was actually diabetic a few years ago.
Okay.
So he had to have a major lifestyle change. And so he's fine without the ice cream, but
he's hating it on the inside, but liking it on the outside.
But liking it on the outside, and of course, protein's big, so he's got his meats happening. So,
yeah, I eat a lot of meat myself. It's just so easy. Yes. I like it. It tastes good. Yeah,
we could never be vegetarians.
Same.
Dude, same here.
Same.
Could never.
Yeah.
Could never.
Well, is there anything that we missed? Is there anything that you think, any advice or tips, people that are considering going through a surgery like yourself? Is there anything else that you feel like you should say?
I think it just comes down to doing what's best for you, making sure you are doing what's best for you and not listening to the words of everybody else. If surgery is going to give you the results that you want and you're going to stick with it, then great, pursue it. But at the end of the day, you don't have to have surgery. You just have to be healthy, and you have to be your best version, and you have to figure out what that looks like.
Love it. Sean, do you have any questions?
I do. You have some questions. My handy dandy notebook real quick. Took a little scroll down your Instagram, and I noticed that you are a Starbucks fan.
Oh, yes.
Which, I'm sure a lot of people are. But I wanted to ask, since you were going through this health journey, did you have any sort of like macro-friendly coffee? And if you did, how do you order that? Like, what's your go-to?
My go-to is the shaken espresso with the sugar-free vanilla syrup, because it comes with just regular vanilla. So I get that.
How many calories are in there?
I don't know, but it's pretty low. I want to say it's under like 200.
Yeah, you can get away with some pretty low options at Starbucks for sure. And they're really good still.
Right.
Yeah.
They only have the sugar-free vanilla flavor, so sometimes I'll just get the shaken espresso, and I have a bunch of syrups at home.
There you go.
So I'll bring my own syrups.
Yeah, my wife loves Starbucks. It took me like 2 or 3 years to remember her order.
Oh, yeah.
But,
I used to get the most sugary thing at Starbucks. Yeah. So now, I'm like, the shaken espresso is my go-to because it's a pretty simple thing. It's, just the espresso has got some form of dairy in it, iced.
What do you think, likelihood scale of 1 to 10 that I can get Denver to transition to this?
Oh, man.
Because right now she gets you ready for this? Brown sugar shaken espresso.
Okay.
Wait. Brown sugar oat milk shaken espresso with sweet cream cold foam.
That sounds really good. Venti, yeah.
Venti.
Well, is there another size?
No. not in our household.
Yeah. That's gonna be a tough one, man.
Yeah.
What do you think? Scale of 1 to 10.
Dude, I'm thinking I'm gonna give you a little bit of. I'm confident in like Denver's perseverance, so I think I'll give her like a 6.
60% chance
that she'll change. If you because you can. I think they used to have sugar-free cinnamon dulce, right?
I don't know. I don't think they do right now.
I've gotten that before.
Yeah.
They used to.
It's pretty good.
That was my normal order at Starbucks for a long time. Was an Americano.
Okay.
With that sugar-free cinnamon.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's a few options out there. There's this guy on Instagram named the Macro Barista or something like that, and he goes and gets a bunch of different ones. I was like, I didn't even know that you could do this there, but he was like, and they all sounded really good, sugar cookie and all these other different flavors. So,
I think we just need to get together and just have a taste test.
Oh, yes, let's do that.
Yeah, what?
Let's get that penciled in.
And then we'll compare notes.
Yeah, we'll get that.
When it comes to coffee, I am always
Let's
down.
pencil that in for sure.
So, I guess my next my next question was just the identity change to go from, being bigger to, having to buy smaller clothes now, to training people. And I think you probably answered it at some point, but I guess I wanted to just dig in a little bit deeper. And how do you make that change? Like, I don't know. I guess it's like.
So, like, how does somebody make that change?
I guess let me reword it. How you felt during that change? It's like, okay, well now I'm going and shopping for. I'm actually getting those running clothes that I really wanted to get.
Yeah,
how
good
exciting
question.
was that?
I like that. Yeah.
It's been pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like the same thing when you see yourself in the mirror and you're like, who is that? I'll pick up a pair of clothes and go, there's no way that will fit me. Because I'm used to jeans being this big.
Yeah.
And so, when I pick it up and I'm like, there's no way I could wear that. And I put it on and I'm like, oh, look at that, And so it's the results, clothes are way cuter, the smaller you are. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be like that, but it is. And so it's easier to find too, and it's kind of weird when I'm looking for like a medium and they're out. I'm like, why is there no medium? Because you're so used to not being able to find your bigger size. Mm-hmm. I was a 26 in women's, and that was not uncommon not to be able to find. Yeah, so, I just assumed all the smaller sizes, they always had plenty. And so it's kind of
You never knew.
I didn't know.
Because you never looked for them.
Never looked for them.
Yeah.
So,
That's beautiful.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah. Way easier to shop for. And,
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, yep, that's all I have. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate your time. It's super valuable.
I'm glad.
For people that need to hear a story like yours, to be not only inspired, but just shown that it is possible and the whole transition. Yeah. So, awesome.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. Keep up.
For sure.
Keep it up. It's so amazing to hear. So, guys, make sure you like, subscribe. You want to say again where you train at, how to get a hold of you, stuff like that?
Yeah, so I am at Iron Kill Strength there in Kemah, and you can get me on my Instagram. I think it's 40 plus runner girl or something like that. You guys can do all that.
We'll tag it in.
Man. Gotcha.
Yeah, Sean's here for that.
Yeah.
All right, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, hit her up if you need any help. We're here for you too. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.